What's up, beautiful people? It's your girls, Leanne. Let's get blissed out. Inhale music. So that's our Four Seasons with Vivaldi, a beautiful piece that I had the chance to learn and hear for the first time in this wonderful Music Friends podcast interview today with Doug Smith. Welcome to the show, Doug. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Leanne. How are you doing today?
I'm great. You know, you make me really lucky to have this moment. It's a thought that has manifested. And I just want the listeners and the viewers to know that see this, whether they see it today or they see it in the future. We have not only a reflection of a beautiful human being, but we have a gem of music in our community right beside me today that I honor and admire.
Thank you, Leanne. It's beautiful. And I extend my warmth and gratitude, I think most of all, outward to you and all your listeners, viewers, participants.
Yes. So why I brought Doug on the show, guys, and Doug for you is just to go through a journey with, first of all, let's share a little bit about you in admiration to you and to your personality and your growth with music. This is all about connecting with friends of heart, friends that lead with their legacies, their passions, and to know a little bit more about you, how to connect with your teachings, also all the things, wonderful things about you. So tell us a little bit about how you came to music, and that'll be a great start.
Well, that's a long story. I mean, how do we connect with essential parts of ourselves and essential parts of life? I think that, music is omnipresent. How we connect with it more directly, there has to be some moment or some sort of practice, I think, over time, which sparks us. And ultimately, what I would say is it is a process of embodiment that you take music in, and which is why singing is such a powerful force for everybody. It's so primal and it makes your body vibrate, and you have embodied music and you are music. So I really started, quote, seriously when I was about 12 years old. I had fiddled around and sung in school choir, but at 12 I got a guitar, and basically throughout my teens I was self-taught. I'm an exploratory kind of person. I like to teach myself, and it's often a slower journey, but often, you learn things in a deeper way than having them sort of revealed to you. So on the other hand, I did at 18 go to college and become more of what I would say a literate musician, learning the reading and writing and the historical process. I mean, I grew up with popular music, more like Bob Dylan and Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles. And that was what sort of, enlivened me in the early days. But as an explorer, I wanted to find new sounds, languages, lands. And going to school, I thought, was a very good thing for me. And it was. It clarified millions of things, and joined with my own experience, it just sort of opened the world for me. And that's really how I came to music. I've played guitar around 16. I started teaching myself piano. Later on, I played electric bass, and I played that professionally for quite a few years. And so that's sort of my early path, and that would have taken me into my early 20s, I would say.
Very nice. There's one thing that you just mentioned. I remember understanding that myself when I was in your class about you are music. One of the best things that you did in one of the first classes I had, you had, helped us to reflect and the embodiment of it. But for somebody that doesn't understand that, can you go a little bit further, explain that a little bit deeper?
Well, it's, it's kind of a metaphysical idea, although I think it grounds itself in reality, in that, music is sound, and sound is vibrations, which are part of, if you're a materialist, I mean, totally. Yeah. We're part of a material world that we exist in. And vibrations, waveforms are everywhere. It's what light is. It's, it's a massively central thing to reality. And when you do music, you are music because you are doing it.
Mm.
And I would, let me lower the tone here. I would say if someone comes to me and says, show me how to be a million, whatever they sell music in these days, record seller. Let me sell out, the New York Gardens or whatever. And say, I have no idea how you do that. But he said, let me help you sing some music. Let me help your body vibrate. Let me help you connect to that. And if you want that other thing, that's a whole other issue, but the music itself is what you do. And you can't, if you want that other thing, you better start here. Not that I advocate that anyways, but yeah, it's all about doing it. It's not about being famous. It's not about being rich. It's not about being professional. It's about doing it. When some adults ask me all the time, I'd love to take up an instrument. I wish I did earlier. And I say, well, just do it. Have no expectations except that you enjoy the process, because that is what it's all about.
So not advocating for that fame. Now, I understand this myself as being a promoter and seeing the difference of all the years of my meditation, and then the aha moments of like being the observer to gratitude and holding space for life, and that's what I feel like I'm hearing. Now, do you think that there's people that have gotten really famous that actually feel both of those things? Like, do you see that in the difference? I know there's a lot of musicians that talk about. I actually interviewed Roland Westline. He talked about his hunger to reach for that place, and you can check that out into the network, guys. But his hunger to reach, and then when he really found himself happy and expressing himself fully in music, everything changed at that point. And so, whether or not he reaches, the Grammy, which he wants to get the Grammy, but all of that got lost because he just became music. And so I think that's kind of what I feel like I'm getting from you. The same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't even mean to get too entrepreneurial. It's just like a business, if your goal is to get rich, maybe that you're not going to be a very good business person. If your goal is to do something well, and to live it and provide something which is of value to you and to society around you, then I would say, yeah, do that, and good things will happen as a result. So I don't think anyone can reach points of however they define success without just actually doing it. And again, I would just emphasize that's not important. I mean, I love soccer. I love playing it. I love doing I would never consider doing it in my career. I know I'm not good at it. It would be a silly thing to do, but that doesn't mean that I can't go out with the soccer ball like on a day like yesterday, which is beautiful, and enjoy this thing that I do. I don't have to be great. I just have to love it, So
I appreciate that.
That's the answer within.
Yeah. Well, I also feel like for myself, since I left school too, and I think that this would be really great for any listeners that come in a raw, vulnerable place, that like you go to school and then you have all these responsibilities and then you fall into bad habits. Now, I know one of your greatest teachings was to make sure you're using an instrument every day, whether it's your voice or whether it's reading or whether it's playing, get your hands onto it. For somebody, for example, like me, that I need a kick in my butt, other than the love that I have for music, or maybe because of my distraction, what would be the 1% rule that you would give us and every day with music, how to keep ourselves there?
I'm not really familiar with the 1% rule. I can kind of guess what it is.
Doing at least 1% a day.
Your daily maxim. Well, yeah, it's very simple. Just connect with it. Do it every day. You get out of bed, I usually go to the bathroom first thing when I get up. So there's things I do every day. And it's not really like, oh yeah, I get to get up and go to the bathroom. It's like, well, better do it. And, I'm going to do it. And it's part of every day. Wow, my analogies are really off the mark today, but before we get too scatological, just, go to your instrument every day. I have my piano here. I have my guitar just over there where my hangout place is. And I pick it up and I play for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. Sometimes I sit down, at night before I go to bed and I start playing, and the next thing I know, it's 3 hours later. And sometimes I just play for a little bit, but I sing. I'm just, you activate the thing that you want to be or that you want to enjoy or nourish yourself,
Well, I really needed to hear that again. I am doing that in other ways of writing music and stuff. And your composition class, the end of theory, and I will let listeners know, Doug is a profound teacher. Okay, so this is not artificial. It's not that I will just try to butter up who this person is. But when you're in a classroom with him, you experience a joy through learning. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the joy of learning with Doug. You're at Douglas College. You've been there for how long?
Since 1994. So I guess 25 years.
Wow. And tell us about all the classes that you're teaching inside the school and outside the school. I want to hear more about that.
Well, right now, I'm not teaching until September. What I will be teaching next year is very similar to what I did last year, except we'll be in person. I am led to believe. I'm teaching 2 theory classes, both of which are pop theory, popular music theory. Mm-hmm. One is for a specialized music program, the MTD, the Music Technology Program. That's a 1-year theory class, which is I tailored to the students of that program and their needs. And this last year, I taught it was a 2nd-year pop theory class for credit for our diploma. And it was the first time this class has been taught. And so what it means is in Douglas College, there are multiple pathways. You don't have to be in the traditional or the high school band teaching or the classical, there is popular music. There are many different things. So, but in the 2nd-year class, you have to obviously have 1st-year theory to get in there. So in other words, it's quite advanced because you have a group of people who know the fundaments of music, harmony, theory, texture, and the basics of form. And then we expand on that. So that's a super exciting class. I teach a survey kind of history music appreciation course, which I think is probably too broad to really do a good enough job on much of anything, other than just literally, here it is, and here it is, and then here's some more, and here's some more, and a lot of different styles and historical periods. So, but I enjoy that. I like that a lot. And what else? Oh, I teach composition. Yeah, so I teach both privately, one-on-one lessons, and a class, Introduction to Composition.
Okay, so you're doing that privately, and you're doing that from home, part-time on the weekends, or is it just in the summer seasons, or what?
I do take private students. Okay, well, I should explain. I take private students, they're not private, they're college students. But what they're doing is they're taking individual lessons with me.
Okay.
So in almost all disciplines, you have one prof and 20 or 200 students, depending on the circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's just me and the student. So it's a private study. It's your lesson time, right? If you're a piano player, you go to your piano teacher. If you're a
Mm-hmm.
composition student, then you come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are my college students. They're not private. Now, I do teach privately occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually that's by private arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's in off hours, and usually summer is best for me to do those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about this composition, because I think this is one. How about listening in context? You're not doing that anymore?
Oh, well, that's what I mean, which is the survey, the history, historical, social, technological, economic context for essentially the history of music.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just the history of Western music, but we touch upon other genres and music from other parts of the world and styles as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, knowing that leads into developing the ear so that we understand when we're creating composition. The beauty of composition, I really feel that was like, honestly, even since I've left school, and I was telling you that I had this dream. I was in your theory class, like, and I want that dream again, but I remembered what happened that morning when I woke up. I was like, I never want to wake up. I just want to stay there. Honestly. And I was like, I think I need to go back to writing. I have been writing a lot, but I just want people and listeners to know that, like, I just love the way that you flow with your teachings. And I was really hungry to find you again. I'm so glad I did. And just seeing you and having this opportunity, I'll probably replay this video more than anybody else will to come back to see it, honestly. But yeah, so composition wise, those classes you're also doing on the weekends, for anybody that went to Douglas, or how does that work? Are you just like, do you have to be a student at Douglas in order to do that privately with you?
No, at Douglas College, there's also another organization thing called the Douglas College Community Music School, which is essentially like an adult education. If you want to do courses for credit, meaning like serious, academic application and courses which would be transferable to other institutions, then you have to become a Douglas College student and, pay the fees. And you have to actually be in the program for that. To do private lessons, you can get teachers through the Douglas College Community Music School, in which case that again would be an agreement with the teacher and the student. There would be some sort of arrangement worked out and a contract signed. The community music school takes a little cut, and then the student and the teacher meet for the assigned
time.
Yeah, the assigned time, whatever it was contracted for.
Listeners hear all that information. Just so if you are in your journey with music and you're finding yourself, well, I don't want to do a bachelor's, I don't want to do a diploma, I don't want this. These are options, right? And myself, knowing I'm raising two sons that are doing their full diploma and then bachelor's, I've had to put a lot on hold for my own work and just maintaining their journey, but I'm hungry too. So I'm so excited to hear that information so that I know where I can tap into resources at Douglas. Let's talk a little bit about composition, just the beauty of writing a little bit. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the basics of what it would feel like to know a little bit about that, the basics of theory. Just give us a little bit of, what's it like to be into, a composition class with you, and what do you share?
Well, I share a lot of very generalist knowledge and approach. First of all, in any classroom situation, you deal with a stereotype student. In other words, kind of an amalgam of everyone. Some people know some things, other people don't know things. So it's never a monolithic thing that you can teach. You always have to, you're almost dipping your toe and testing the water as you go along. But my basic philosophy, though, is that my constant analogy is when you go to a college or university, virtually every student has to take English 101, which is basically English composition. Can you write a paper? Can you write an essay?
Mm.
Now, it's called composition. Can you compose an essay? And that's all composition is. It's saying something, hopefully, as articulately as you are able to. No one expects you to be Shakespeare or, a serious journalist or literary figure. This is not the point. Likewise, in composition, everybody goes in having a lifetime of listening to music and expectations and understanding of music, which is far beyond their ability to create it. They might be able to imagine it, but then when it's, how do I communicate it to my friend over here so they can play that melody or they can play that rhythm? Now that's where problems come in. Traditionally, that's where the problems set in, because you can have all sorts of ideas, but can you express yourself articulately enough that those ideas can be realized and brought into the real world? So, I can say, well, I'm writing a song and it's got a lovely, slow, lilting melody that talks about love. And then it reaches this poignant peak at the bottom. And then we have this resolution in it. And I could talk all sorts of fancy music theory words if you want as well. But really, the thing that one wants to accomplish is much more stand back and look at it in a very simple sort of sense. And, this is really the task. And I can tell you, your second song will be better than your first one. Your first time you do something, it might take you 20 hours or 40 hours or 10 or whatever. But the next time you do it, you'll have learned from doing it, and it'll take you half that amount of time. The other thing is that we also have to be realistic. We don't lower well, maybe we do. Maybe you lower your expectations if you're not realistic. But half of all Beethoven's pieces that he wrote were his crappy pieces. He divided into half were good and half were not. They didn't cut the grade. So they were his lousy works. So half of Beethoven, Beethoven's a hero of mine, by the way. Love Beethoven. But this is true for anyone. And half of anything you produce will fit somewhere in there as well. Now, Beethoven's standards may be up here and my standards are down here. There's a big difference, and it's important to be real about that. But your standards can rise. How? You practice it. Practice. Oh no, your 1% rule. You just do it. You do it. You do it. You keep it alive. Don't let your fire go out. People in past centuries would understand that very well. They may not have a roaring fire, but they'd always come by and blow the coals and keep it going. Or as we used to say, if you leave your boyfriend / girlfriend for one day, she will leave you for two. So if you don't practice your instrument for a couple of days, it'll take you several days just to get back where you were before you can even go on. And again, this is the thing. It's like, well, live it, do it, be it. And, it's not for everyone. For me, I might do it many hours a day. For someone else, it might be 3 minutes a day.
So good.
And it just depends, like live it and do it and love it. Live it and do it and love it. Otherwise, go be a dentist and make a lot of money and buy a swimming pool or, something like, what's the point of doing something like this if not to live it and love it and do it?
And composition, you have breakdowns of basic, intermediate, and advanced. Is there a breakdown to how your classes are?
No, I only have a basic composition class or introduction to composition. And what that is, that's 2 semesters, 1 and 2. And the first semester, I go over all of tonal music. What that means is, and technically tonal music is like the vast majority of music that people tend to listen to or encounter in this society, you know,
Mm.
with a note and a scale and all that kind of stuff. And I always call it, it's kind of anti-theory. Now, I teach theory. I love theory. I'm very keen on theory. It's a way of organizing information, but it's not a set of rules. It's not a set of prescriptions. So when I say anti-theory, it's like, well, you have to understand that music basically has several dimensions, and these are the dimensions we work with over and over again. There is the time dimension. Okay, now we're 5 seconds further than we were. Now we're 10 seconds. And although time tends to go in one direction in our life, we have memory and we can remember back to things we have heard. So, you know, this is a very important element in music. You have essentially pitch, like how high, how low is your sound, right? And that's where you get a melody. You get these notes moving one after another, and they're higher or lower, right? And so these are the kind of structures that move through time. You also even get more notes happening simultaneously. They tend to cluster together like galaxies, and you hear all those notes at once, and those are essentially what we think of as chords, and they give you your color and depth to the music, and it all moves through time. And then you have, you know, other elements like, you know, color. Like, why do you, can you tell it's a snare drum and not a piano? Well, because of the shape and the color, the nature, the geometrics of the sound itself, right? And that's a timbre element. Right. And how do all these things exist in time? Well, there are many of them exist, and they exist uniquely at one point in time. So it's their placement and their duration. And it all comes together in a kind of a oral mosaic, which makes, you know, hopefully makes sense to our ears. So those are the elements, and I want to keep going back to those elements, like, because those are the basic elements that we need to really focus on ourselves and understand how it is they work. More importantly, understand how it is they work for us if we want to be the creative artist. Because ultimately you, Leanne, will have your own conception of what a melody is, and it'll have a lot of overlap with me, but it'll be off in some areas where it's not really my thing, but I'll also be in areas which isn't really your thing. And literally every human will have that kind of Venn diagram. So it's important to, you have to understand the concept, and then you go out and see where your particular Venn is, the things that belong to you that you can exploit, right? And those are actually almost amazingly simple, you know, silly things to say, obvious things, perhaps, except that, again, those obvious things are the ones that we lose when we're trying to remember what a harmonic minor scale is, and how those notes fit together and all that kind of detail, which is what I say about that stuff is learn that, absorb that until you don't ever have to actually really consciously think about it. You absorb it at a lower level, like grammar. You can probably take apart a sentence grammatically, but when you're speaking, you don't think, oh, I need a verb next, and now I need some sort of modifying, you know, adverb or whatever the case may be, right? We've absorbed the rules at a deeper level. And when you study theory, all you're doing is, I'm studying, you know, Brooklyn English from 1950, or I'm studying, you know, London English from 1590, you know, a la Shakespeare, or I'm studying, you know, French Impressionist music a la 1905 via Debussy, or I'm studying, you know, all these different things. And so you have to sort of, again, have all the understanding where all these things are, and so that you can see what they are in yourself and how you can bring them about.
I love it. Well, one of my favorite places that we went during the time of learning was the symphony Now, are you part of the Vancouver Symphony at all? Do you write with I think I asked that question one time. I just don't know enough about that. Are you part of the Vancouver Symphony at all, or?
No, only in the sense that Douglas College does a field trip to this, except for COVID 2020. We do a field trip to the Orpheum to watch a VSO rehearsal.
That's all?
Yeah.
And you have recordings on at home. I saw you're growing a little bit of fun new projects on YouTube. Like I'm starting with BlisstOut with this podcast. Tell us a little bit about that. What are you doing there? I saw that video. Tell us how'd that all start?
Um, well, when COVID struck in March 2020, I had like 3 weeks of classes left. It was deep into the semester, and suddenly I was like, smack, now you're teaching everyone online. And it was like, what? Oh my God, I don't even know what to do. And I started throwing videos together. I put hours and hours of work into some videos using clips from other videos, and YouTube copyright struck them immediately. And it was like, oh, it was a disaster. And so I thought I really need to start my own, channel that I can, put some stuff onto, and I have to make my own stuff. And for the past year, I've just been sort of ruminating about it. I've taught the whole last year online. Mm-hmm. I've got a lot of techno experience now with, making videos and doing them. Mm. And one thing I started doing was animating songs, German 19th century romantic German songs, Lieder or art song, piano and voice, Schubert, Schumann, Brahms, all this kind of stuff. Just because it was fun, and it was a really, really good way to learn how to manipulate video for the kind of things that I want to do. And I kind of liked it, so I just kept doing it, and I've now got 5 there now. The one that you're talking about is I took the skills I developed from those German Lieder, and I took one of my own pieces, quite a short 1:40 piano piece, an invention in D major, and I animated it. For many years, I grew up pre-music videos, so I remember music used to be just music, and then there were videos and MTV, and image and videos began to become associated, certainly in popular music, and then internet, and then YouTube, and Instagram, all this kind of this media oversaturated world. However, it's like a Gutenberg, books are not going to go away. There's just going to be more and more and more of them. And literacy is quite literally changing. And I have always been interested in it. So I'm trying to feel my way through it. Mm-hmm. What I realized in the end is, I was looking at a lot of music theory channels and thinking, well, I can kind of do that. I can kind of replicate that. I can blah, 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 blah. And I just, again, it's like composition itself, big circle coming back to your original question. I always tell my students, be the best Leanne Campbell in the whole world. Don't be a 5th-rate Paul McCartney, because there's a billion of them and they're not worth very much. And it's like, be inspired by Paul McCartney for sure, but be the best Leanne, because no one else can be. And then you will be who you are, and that is harmony with the universe. So I just want to take my ideas. I just thought, this is what I imagine. I think of visual music, and I don't mean music videos. I don't mean movies where the music is accompanying it. I mean, music is the thing. And here is one possibility, just to entertain your eyes as it goes by, and maybe a little insight into me.
But you are the best, Doug. We're wrapping up with 40 minutes in here. I know that we have about 35 minutes of content. I'm so excited just to even start this with you. And, I think the feedback and the beauty of these podcasts is that I'm hoping that this also reminds you of your value, that you've had so much impact on people's lives. I encourage you to continue that. Likewise, I'm going to soak up everything that I've heard from you today again, repeat it in my ears and take it in my heart. And thank you for your place on this earth with music. And there's so much more to come, BlisstOut listeners. Doug is just starting with us. And you're such a blessing. Thank you so much for showing up today.
I just express my gratitude to you and to all of my teachers before me.
All right. And ending this with a little bit more of Vivaldi. God bless you and see you soon.